All right, hi everyone. Today we're going to be talking about the different stages of sleep. But before we get started, we need to first talk about what are called circadian rhythms. Now, circadian rhythms are the natural biological body rhythms that regulate our sleep-wake cycles. For example, these are going to determine whether we are a light sleeper or a deep sleeper, whether we are an early riser or a late riser. It determines if we need only a few hours of sleep per night or a lot of hours of sleep per night. So these are very important as far as regulating our sleep-wake cycles. Now, what's going to happen is that these are going to be regulated by a brain area called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. So this is the brain area that's responsible for regulating these biological rhythms or circadian rhythms. Now, in this diagram right here in green is where you can see the suprachiasmatic nucleus. And then over here, this little brain area right here is called the pineal gland. Now, what's important about the pineal gland is that it produces a natural hormone in the body called melatonin. Now, many of you guys recognize melatonin as a sleep aid. You can go down to any type of herbal store where they sell herbal supplements, maybe like a GNC or someplace like that. And you actually can buy melatonin supplements as a sleep aid because they are related to regulating our sleep-wake cycles. In addition to that, we also have what are called zeitgebers. These are light stimuli that reset our biological clocks. And so what's going to happen is that when we have a chemical imbalance, maybe we have improper levels of melatonin that can cause sleep disturbances. When we don't have a light stimulus, for example, if you're living in Alaska during the winter months when you don't have a lot of sunlight, that can cause a lot of sleep disturbances. And natural things such as daylight savings time or traveling on an airplane from the west coast to the east coast can also cause these types of issues. So you'll read more about that in the textbook in chapter 4 and also in the Rebel. So pay attention to that when you get to that part in the lecture notes. For now, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the different stages of sleep. And so what's going to happen is that during a night's sleep, we're going to go through maybe 3, 4, 5 sleep cycles. And during each sleep cycle, we're going to go through 5 different stages of sleep. Stages 1, 2, 3, and 4 are called non-REM. Stage 5 is called REM sleep. REM stands for rapid eye movement, and this is a behavioral characteristic of a dream state. And one of the reasons why we know that everyone dreams, whether you remember them or not, is that whenever you have the rapid eye movements, if someone wakes you up, you'll report having a dream. So that's how we define them. Generally speaking, stages 1 and 2 are going to be light states of sleep. Stages 3 and 4 are going to be deep states of sleep. And also stage 5 is going to be a very deep state of sleep. Now, what's going to happen is that as we progress through our sleep cycles, in the first couple sleep cycles, we spend more time in light sleep than we do in deep sleep. So that's why if you only get a couple hours of sleep at night, you're going to feel very sleep deprived the next morning because you didn't get a lot of deep sleep. And then if you are sleep deprived, what's going to happen is that when you go to bed, and you just need to go about to bed an hour earlier than normal, what's going to happen is that you're going to spend more time in deep sleep the next night, and that's how you get caught up. And also when you take a nap, you'll notice that sometimes when you take a nap, because you only got a couple hours of sleep the previous night, you're going to quickly go into a deep state of sleep or possibly even into a REM state of sleep. So anyways, so that's how the sleep cycles are going to work. So what's going to happen is that in stage number 1, this may be when you are sitting on the couch watching television, maybe you're sitting in bed reading a book or trolling on your social media accounts on your cell phone or whatever it may be. What's going to happen is that you'll slowly start to doze off. And you'll start to get those little head nods. You'll notice it just start to fade away. Sometimes when your dad is sitting on a recliner watching television, he'll start to snore there. You'll wake him up and say, "Hey, Dad, go to bed. You're sleeping. You're snoring." They'll say, "Oh, I'm just resting my eyes." So a lot of people don't actually report that they're sleeping, but they actually are. It's just a light state of sleep. And what's going to be a characteristic here is what's called muscle twitching. And so as you start to fall asleep, your body is still sending commands from the motor cortex out to the muscles, which causes these muscle twitches. And what's kind of interesting is that if you have dogs at home, for example, you'll notice that they also have these muscle twitches. So a lot of the characteristics that we have in humans during our sleep cycles are also found in animals such as dogs. Also, you'll notice that when you are sleep deprived, that the muscle twitches are more pronounced. So if you're really, really tired, you're going to go so quickly into a state of sleep that the brain cannot inhibit these motor commands, and sometimes these muscle twitches can be so severe that they actually jerk you awake. So those are the muscle twitches. They're perfectly normal, so if they happen, they happen. And finally, we have what are called hypnagogic hallucinations. Now, these are kind of interesting because this is kind of a combination of the waking state and the sleeping state coming together. So what would happen here is, for example, you could be sitting on the recliner watching television, and suppose that you're watching Jeopardy. You'll start to fall off into a light state of sleep, although you're still hearing what's on the TV. And so you may actually start to have like this dreamlike hallucination that you're in the Jeopardy show playing the game, answering the questions. And so it's kind of really weird because it's combining a waking state phenomenon with a sleeping state phenomenon. So we experience this as like a dreamlike hallucination. It's not technically a dream because we're not dreaming yet. But anyways, so that's kind of what's happening there. And also, these are very common when people suffer from certain types of sleep disorders, such as narcolepsy. So when you have a daytime sleep attack, you'll have these type of hypnagogic hallucinations also. So you'll be in a state of light sleep. You'll hear people talking around you, but you're not able to wake yourself up. So we'll talk more about that on the next section on sleep disorders. In stage number 2, what's going to happen here is you're moving into a lighter state of sleep. And you're sleeping a little bit more soundly, but still you won't report you're sleeping if you're awakened. And also here we have what are called sleep spindles. So this could be any type of environmental stimuli that's going to wake you up. It could be a door slamming shut. It could be a car driving down the street. It could be the noise from a radio next door. And so what happens is that when people are light sleepers, and say you wake up 2-3 times a night, what's going to happen is that these type of stimuli are going to cause your brain to become activated, which is going to wake you up. And also, some people who are light sensitive, if there are lights shining into your room, it can have the same effect. Now, some people are very sensitive to specific types of stimuli. So, for example, a mother who just had a baby will be very sensitive to noises the baby makes. And so she may wake up whenever she hears the baby start to cry, or when the baby starts to move around in the bed. She'll quickly wake up when she hears that sound. Also, this is typically why police officers and firemen don't like to sleep near hospitals, because the sirens will easily wake them up also. So anyways, so these are a common phenomenon too, and these are more pronounced, especially when people have various types of sleep disorders such as insomnia. Stage 3 is just a transition stage from light sleep to deep sleep. It probably lasts about 15 minutes. And what's happening here is that the brain is changing different types of brain waves to allow you to go from light sleep into a deeper state of sleep. Sometimes when people have problems making this transition, it can also cause problems with insomnia. In stage 4, this is going to be the deepest stage of sleep. And you're not going to be easily awakened during this stage, but if you are, you're going to be very dazed, disoriented, and confused. And also, this is where sleep disorders occur. And so what's interesting about this is that you may have been told that if you have a child who walks in their sleep, you shouldn't wake them up. And supposedly, terrible things can happen to them. They could possibly die or whatever. You can read all kinds of crazy stuff on the internet. But what's actually going to happen is none of that's true. But what's going to happen is that, say your child is walking into the kitchen, they go to the refrigerator, get out the milk carton, pour a glass of milk, and then you wake them up. They're going to be like, oh, what's going on? Why am I here in the kitchen? What are you guys doing to me? I don't understand what's happening. And they're just kind of really confused because they're in a state of sleep. They didn't remember that they're actually walking to the kitchen and get a glass of milk. That happened outside of their awareness. And so that's what happens. And so once again, say you're going on vacation, you have a young child at home, you don't want to wake them up and get them dressed and put them in the car. That's just going to cause them to cry and become confused and whatnot. So the best thing to do is just get them dressed the night before. And when you're ready to leave, pick them up out of bed, carry them to the car, buckle them up in their car seat, and take off. Don't even wake them up. And so that's what's going to happen during stage 4 sleep. It's going to be very difficult to wake a person up in stage 4. They are in a very deep state of sleep. And so Hopefully you spend a lot of time in stage 4. Finally, stage 5, this is also known as paradoxical sleep, because in the other stages of sleep, the brain is not very active. It's still doing stuff, but it's not very active. But in stage 5 sleep, it is very active. And in fact, your brain is as active as it is during the waking state. The difference is instead of being aroused by external stimuli, we're now being aroused by internal stimuli. And the internal stimuli that arouses us is going to be our dreams. And so this is where we have the rapid eye movements. And once again, if you watch your dog when they sleep at night, you'll also notice that they have rapid eye movements. So the question is, do dogs dream? They seem to have a lot of the characteristics of it, so I wouldn't be surprised if they did. Also, there's a loss of muscle tone. And so that's why a lot of people tend to remember like the chasing dreams and the following dreams, because you can't move your muscles. And so if you feel like you're being chased or you're falling, you're trying to move your arms, you're stiff as a board, you can't move, that combined with the strong emotional reaction of being chased or falling is what's going to wake you up. And so you can't actually act out a dream while you're sleepwalking, because the two cannot occur simultaneously. You can't walk in your sleep and dream at the same time, because there's no muscle movement during a dream state. And finally, for whatever reason, the brain has to dream, and we don't know why. And so what's going to happen is that if you deprive your brain of sleeping, say you skip your REM state, what's going to happen is that the next time you fall asleep, you're going to go quicker and quicker into a REM state. That's why a lot of people who don't remember their dreams at night will remember them the next day if they take a nap after they've been sleep deprived, because you're going to quickly go into a REM state. And then if you only take like a half-hour nap or a 45-minute nap, when you wake up, you're probably still going to be in a dream state. And so that's why you tend to remember those dreams in that situation. So anyways, we have an interesting homework assignment this week on assessing your sleep patterns. So we're going to be working on that next. So if you have any questions, be sure to refer to the information in the textbook. And also you can post any questions that you have on the discussion board, and I'll answer those as they start to pop up. And the third option, though, is you could also ask questions when we have our live Zoom classes later in the week. So anyways, hope you guys have a good time with your sleep assignments, and let me know if you have any questions. Until then, we'll see you guys. Bye.